Okay, 7:30 a.m. June 29th, 2016. Weeks pass by like days, months pass by like weeks, years pass by like seasons. Time keeps rolling on. Everything fades away. Anyway, it's just funny. It's funny to me how the dynamic always changes once I hit record. Everything's going fine. It's just different when I hit record. It's never the same. So I was talking about before about it not being. It's best when I used to just leave it recording like all the time in the background, and then I would just start saying something, just not even realizing, not even thinking about it being recorded, and I would just start talking, responding to things, and that would be the best things to record. It's not the same for me when I hit record and then I'm talking, as opposed to when it's already recording in the background anyway, and then I would cut that section out. Anyways, while I was talking, well, last time I think also in the that first tape that I made, the number 0, I was talking about, or at least I was thinking about, going back and basically trying to do with this channel, after all this time. It used to be the one that I used the most. I just never uploaded any videos to it. But it was the one that I had all the subscriptions to, or on. Oh, for crap's sake. Don't even do that. It just auto-played the fucking CD I put in. I'm trying to copy to the hard drive. Anyway. Basically what I'm saying is that these two channels have become the opposite of what they should have been. This was my main channel before. It should have been the one that I uploaded all the videos to. But I ended up uploading all the regular videos like this, which is just me doing whatever I was doing at the time, saying whatever I was saying, uploading those videos. That was the other channel. It wasn't even called the Melchizedek at first. It was called something else. I forget now even what I had it called. I don't even know what it was called now. I changed it to the last Melchizedek when I started making videos, intending for them to be seen, because well, I intended at first for that to be the purpose, but it became something else, what it is now, and that's not what it originally was intended to be. And so now I'm having to revert back to this channel, and I'm going to make this one what the other one was supposed to be in the first place, which is to say, I want to upload videos of me talking about my ideologies with no one watching. That is the point. So the other one's the Melchizedek channel. This is the, I mean, I call myself a Melchizedek, but I mean, my religion, I've said my religion actually isn't even Christianity. I'm making a new religion for a new age. Just like you go from Judaism, or what used to be Judaism, before it became Kabbalistic and Talmudic, the old Hebrew faith from 2,500 years ago, that became Christianity 2,000 years ago. That's the law. There was the age of the law. That was the age of the ram. Then you go and you change. Every zodiacal age changes over, and the world religion changes. The whole world structure changes. The empires change every 2,000 years. For the past 2,000 years, it's been Rome. Before that, it was freaking Babylon. Since the flood, or the biblical date for the flood would be 2600 BC. So it just keeps going on, and so we're going into this next new age, and the world's governing structure is going to be what it is. I feel that He has given it to me to create the culture and the religious structure, and basically the groundwork and well, groundwork's not the best word, but the formula, the basis of it, the idea of it, the outline. I'm supposed to make the outline of what the new age will be, as the Melchizedek of this time, which is what Christ was at His time 2,000 years ago. And basically Abraham was before him 2,000 years before that. Abraham made the Jewish faith, the Hebrew faith. Christ was the foundation of the Christian faith. And now I'm going to be, if I can help it, if it's His will at all, I'm supposed to be the foundation of this new faith for the next 2,000 years, which I have labeled I've called it both Timaeanism, I've also called it Torrefaction. Torrefaction was first. Torrefaction being the alchemical process of the purification of gold, or what you might also consider to be what now is called monatomic gold. But anyway, the Torrefaction applied to the soul, the purification of the soul. It is not our choice. It is not up to us whether we are saved or not. People do not understand anything about the Bible. I am convinced of it. It's not about anything that they talk about, nothing that they think about. It's all different than they say, and He has given it to me. He has shown me what it means. I understand what it is about. And it is about Him putting us through a process of turning us into something else. Transmutation of the soul from one thing into another thing. If you have not been changed, if you are not changing, then you are not becoming what God wants you to be, which means you are staying in whatever base state you are in. That's the point of Christianity. That's the point of the Bible. That's the point of being connected to God in this state. People don't understand that. There's the four states of matter, or the four alchemical elements. People don't even get that. But anyway, and so it occurred to me that I need to go back and start refreshing my memory on all these things that I've gone over before. And so I went back to look some of it up, and I found that I have actually lost a lot of some of the material that I'd actually made before, that I had already finished. But of course, I called it Timaeanism. I'm not sure about that name. You can't call the religion Torrefaction, because that's just a process. That's a name. That is the word of faith. That's like, you call yourself a believer, because you have the faith or you have the Spirit. Well, that's like saying you are in that process. You have been saved. Well, that's what Torrefaction is. That's not. It's like Islam and Muslim. It's not like Christian and Christianity, where it's the same word. There are two different words for what you are when you practice it, and then what it is. Muslims practice Islam. Islam means submission. So, Timaeans would practice Torrefaction, you see. So it's two different things. The Torrefaction is the process, but Timaeus, from Plato's book, the Timaeus, where I get the name, and I have, for years and years, have applied that to myself. That's one of the books you get the idea for Atlantis from. It's actually an unfinished work. But anyway, I feel like I need to get this stuff out somehow, put it out into the void, into the ether. And so I went back to go through my papers, and it turns out apparently I had lost some of it on my old computer from several years ago, because it's been a while since I've gone over this stuff. But I put it all in one little file here, and I made a list of things I want to go through. Of just making the foundation for these new things. First of which is the language base. It's actually, making a language is actually pretty easy. It's just the vocabulary. Making a decent vocabulary is kind of hard without making all the words sound the same. You know, I mean, you're talking about tens of thousands of words, or even hundreds of thousands of words to make a decent full language. And so basically what you have to do is make you can't do it all at once. It has to take time, or it's all going to sound the same. Basically, it just takes time. But I've made several bases for languages, for various reasons, various things. But this is another reason why you need other people involved. You need more than one person, because, I mean, you know, as long as it's just you, then it's just stuff that's in your head. You need other people to make it live, to make it alive. And, well, more specifically, I guess you need a human component, a human connection, which is so very hard for me. Then there's the numerical system. I'm going to change base 10 to base 12. Temporal measure. Temporal measures are goes into the. I've actually already made a calendar. We were talking the other day about the Enochian calendar. The main part, the only decent part of the Book of Enoch is mainly about a calendar. They're trying to change the Hebrew calendar from a lunar-based calendar, where they have to watch for the phases of the moon to determine when the months change over, to a solar-based calendar where the months are just divisions of the year. It's the same every year. And so that's what the Enoch calendar is all about. That's what that part of the book is all about. It's just a calendar. That's why it's talking about the sun and the 12 divisions and all of this, because that's 12 months are the 12 signs of the zodiac, so on and so forth. That's what it's supposed to be. But there again, that's all long ago and far away. It's faded off. Nobody cares. They just want to talk about it and make it into something it's not. And he's given it to me to basically do what that was now. Do what that was what it was then. Do that now. And one of those things is to make a perpetual calendar, an actual. You can't use the Gregorian calendar because it's the Gregorian calendar is the revision of the Julian calendar, which is Roman. The Gregorian calendar is the Catholic calendar, is what I'm saying, and it goes back to Romanism. And then you can't use the Jewish calendar because it's the Babylonian calendar. It goes back to the founding of basically of Babylon. It goes back. That's why it has the date that it does. Instead of 6,000 years, it goes back 5,700 years. When it clearly in the Bible, you can look up James Ussher, and it goes back 6,000 years. Hebrew calendar only goes back 5,700 years to the founding of Babylon, 300 years later. But anyway, I just caught myself talking like I'm making a video again. It'll take me a while to snap out of that. There again, I'm talking. I hit record and I start talking. It's like I'm making a video. I should just leave it running in the background, and then just, like I said, I should start doing that again. But I'm always trying to record things. That's why I'm not recording everything all the time. I need more. I need 2 computers is what I need. Alright, I mean, I'm using 2 screens right now, but anyway. I don't know why, but the calendar is a very big part. I do know why, but it's a very big part of what he wants me to do. Other than the language itself, it was about the first thing. That was the second thing after the language. That was what he put in my heart to do, is recreate the calendar. Because the calendar's all messed up. And it should be using the stars. It's not wrong to use the stars. What's wrong is to worship the stars and act like that is where your destiny comes from. Your destiny does not come from the stars. The destiny of the stars and the destiny of humanity coincide because they come from the same source, which is God. He has devised it all to fit the orderly arrangement that we call our cosmos, our universe. But to sit there and say that one comes from the other is missing the point entirely of what predestination is, or destiny is. The astrologers will say that the stars determine our course, and that you can, plan things out to be on certain days for different effects, which is why they plan the things that they do on the days that they do, basically. But yeah, I mean, he devised the stars as well. He put them there. They're not evil. It's not wrong to observe the stars. It's wrong to make it wrong. It's wrong to make it evil. When you charge things with negative sorts of occultish energy, and you make it spooky and you make it weird, because it's like you're separating it from God and you're making it something else. That's when it becomes wrong. That's when it gets weird. They make it weird. Anyway, you've got the divisions of time of temporal measure. Basically what this breaks down to is just the homogenization of how we measure everything. How we measure time, space, distance, length, width, height, volume. All these things have disparate ways of measuring them. And what the Timaean system is all about is about homogenizing all of those in a natural way that is in harmony with all things. And basically it breaks down to the number 360 or 366. All of these things can be, you name it, and it can be done it can be measured in 360. That is like the basic harmonic number of all these things. Also, like I said, first and foremost, before all of that, we need to change base 10 into base 12. Also, now that I think of it, there should be one. I need to make a new one here. I just thought of one. The musical scale should also be 1. Because they use the octave based on an 8. But that's 7 whole notes, or 7 white keys on a keyboard, and 5 black keys, which makes 12 notes. They try to tell you that's the octave, but it's not the octave. You can divide it. You can divide the scale into whatever number you want. You could have 10, 12, 15. You could have 50 notes. You're just dividing the space on the spectrum of frequency oscillation from one point to the next point when it's doubled in frequency. And you can divide that into any number you want, and that's the scale you have. I mean, they call it a scale because it's like a picture. It's like scale on a picture. It's like resolution. And so the more notes you have, the greater resolution you have. And so there's actually something out there called the chromatic scale, which uses 12 notes. And so I just said that we should change the base 10 to base 12 for counting, because that matches the harmonic of the universe. Well, also we should change the octave to the chromatic scale. In fact, I mean, they already really have. On a piano anyway, they already have, because that's just how it breaks down naturally anyway. Even if you have the 8 notes, or the 7 notes plus the 8 for the next, the octave, you're still going to end up filling in the gaps between them with those other 5 notes anyway. But that's just how it is. So yeah. But the music scales, actually, I've looked into it, and it gets very complex very quick. Music is actually a lot more complicated than anybody realizes. Even musicians don't even really know how complex it is. It's like driving a car. You know, you don't know how to build a car just because you can drive it. So when you actually start looking into how cars are made and what makes them run, it's not the same as just driving a damn car. Same thing with music. Music is very, very complex. I'm glad I just thought of that. Anyway, temporal measure. I mean, you've got the Celtic cycle of the star Sirius, which is 1400 plus 1460 plus 1 day, or plus 1 year rather, 1460 years. Then you have the Olympic cycle, which is 1460 days, which is every 4 years. That's why you have a leap year. The star Sirius has a leap year as well. So we have a leap day every 1460 days. You have a leap year every 1460 years for the Celtic cycle. And then you have 1440 minutes in a day. And so basically the four aspects of the day, you have morning, noon, evening, and night. And that's the 4 divisions of the day. 6 hours each for the 1440 minutes are the same as the seasons of a year, are the same as the years in the Olympic cycle of 1460 days, which are then also equal to the 1460 years of the Celtic cycle. You divide that by 4 and you get 360. Same as the year, or 365. There again, it all breaks down. It's all you homogenize it. Therefore, the day is actually equal to the 4-year cycle, which is actually also equal to the 1460-year Celtic cycle of Sirius, which you get from the Egyptians, because they had a separate calendar for the star Sirius itself. But this actually represents, there again, that scale, and that's time, because you have the micro scale of the minutes, which is a very high frequency of time. That's like up in, it's like gamma rays or something, X-ray type frequency. And then you have the yearly, the Olympic cycle, the 4-year cycle of the leap year for the sun, the quarter day becoming 1 whole day, and you count it in. That's like, okay, if you say the minutes of the day, 1400 minutes, it's very high frequency. Just say that's light. Okay, and then you have the 4-year cycle of 1460 days. That's like sound. That's mechanical sound vibration. Which sound is, what is sound? It's like 30 octaves lower than light. But light, the 7 notes of light are the 7 colors anyway, that we can see the 7 colors. Those colors are the notes. You just can't hear them. You see them. So when you have the notes, they are colors, but you hear them. And when you have colors, they are notes, but you see them. Because the frequency has changed, and our eyes are made to see the notes, and our ears are made to hear the colors at that frequency range. That's the point. And that's what I was talking to Chris about. Everything's made of light, but he was arguing with me because he couldn't see what I was saying. Everything is made of the light, and the light is the Logos, and the Logos is the Word of God. Which means God speaks that whatever the light is creating at the time is what God is speaking at the time to make. Nobody gets it. It is a perpetual, constant creation at the time. Right now, the ever-present now is what He is creating right now. Anyway, and then you go down to the ultra super slow vibration of the Celtic cycle, which takes 1460 years, or 4 times 365 years, just like the Olympic cycle is 4 times 365 days. That'll be your ocean wave type rhythms, you know. That's an actual waveform, or like your tidal cycles. You know, things like that. It's like your gravity and your cosmic forces, electromagnetism, that kind of a thing. The strong and the weak force. Whatever these things actually are, it doesn't really matter, but they exist. They exist in some form, some way. And that's these primal sort of super low vibration, just primordial sort of source of all things kind of frequency. It's the basic, the foundation, the lowest possible vibration. Like so low they're in another dimension almost. Because you have light, but that's electromagnetic vibration. Sound is not the same. Sound is mechanical vibration. That's like it's a different dimension. And it's the same thing is true with gravity and the rest. I hate to say it, but in some way there would be gravity waves, but I'm not sure we could actually measure them. That's beside the point. Anyway, it's not even what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about these measurements. Anyway, these temporal measures of how you measure time. I wanted to break the day down into not 24 hours, but 48 hours of 30 minutes. It breaks down better that way. I thought about changing, I thought about changing the length of the minute, or even the length of the second. There's like what is it, 86,000 seconds in a day or something? You can change the length of a minute, but when you start changing the length of a second, it starts messing things up. The length of a second, I believe, is defined as it's like the orbit or the rotation of a cesium atom is the actual definition for a second. If you look into the scientific definitions for things, you can find that like when they changed the definition for what a meter is to how fast light travels in like a trillionth of a second, they did that just so that they wouldn't have to deal with light, the speed of light changing, because they measure it in meters and shit, and millions of kilometers and things like that. And so instead of dealing with light changing in speed, they change what a meter is and base it on the speed of light, so that the speed of light then never changes because you're referencing it back to itself. That's exactly why you can't trust science, because they're always mainstream science, because they're always fucking with you like that. And that's why we have to change the measurements back to some actual thing that they should be. So if they're measuring light, the speed of light in meters, and they're measuring what a meter is by the speed of light, then how the hell Are you determining anything? You're not. Or they're not. So that's the point. When it comes to linear and land measure, I would base those. In the ancient world, they based those, whether they knew it or not. They had the units of measure, or the cubits, and they had larger measurements like what they called stadia, things like that. I mean, I believe you get the word stadium from the Greek measurement called stadia, and it was about like the circumference of the circuit. Where in the Greco-Roman world, they had what they called circuses, and it's called a circus because it had a circuit. A circuit was a ring or a circle that they would race around in their chariot. You know, the ancient version of NASCAR, and I believe that they called them stadiums, or we get the word stadium from the idea of the circuit, and like a racetrack in the ancient world, being that length of a stadium. Anyway, all these measurement systems, these lengths of measure, were actually based on divisions of the circumference of the Earth at the different latitudes. A cubit in Athens will be a different length, will be shorter than a cubit in Memphis, Egypt. Because the circumference of the Earth was was bigger there. So the farther you went north, the shorter the cubits were. And so actually what he had me to do was to look up what the circumference of the Earth was at the tropic, the northern tropic. And you come to, I found out that the tropic is actually not even a constant. The tropic is actually variable. And the average of the variation is at 23.1 degrees. And so I determined to use 23.1, the circumference at the latitude of 23.1, as the basis for my system of linear and land measure. And so they're all divisions of that distance. Then you have units of weight and volume, capacity, things like that. I've gone into that a bit, but I'm not finished with that part yet. I'm not really satisfied with. I haven't come to anything that I actually like yet, a solution that I actually like. But I actually haven't even dealt with this stuff in years anyway. I kind of left off on it some time ago. A geometric measure, there again, you have, they made the 360 degrees of the circle because of the sun, because of the solar year, 360 days. And so they made 360 degrees for the circle. They lower it from 366, which is what it was originally, to 360 because it's more user-friendly, it's more highly divisible into other numbers. But there again, obviously, you just multiply it by 4 and you get 1440 or 1460. So there again, it all fits in together, just like the minutes of the day. Anyway, you got a temperature scale. There again, I made a temperature scale. No one has yet. They use mercury in thermometers because mercury, the element mercury, is the most highly reactive to temperature variations. But no one ever thought to make a temperature scale based off of the element mercury, oddly enough. And so you have the melting point of mercury is minus 38 Fahrenheit, and the evaporation point is 687 Fahrenheit. And so it's a difference of 712 degrees, Fahrenheit degrees total. And I just take 712 and divide it by 360, and you get each degree is about 1.9 Fahrenheit degrees. So basically I just put 360 degrees for the Fahrenheit scale between its freezing and boiling point. So in my temperature scale, mercury evaporates at 360 degrees and freezes at 0. And so zero is at minus 38, and the human temperature of 98.6 is about 70 degrees in my scale, the mercury scale. Then there are the guilds. I haven't really gone into that yet, but it's what I plan to go into the future. It's about the structure of how I. Well, first of all, we shouldn't have nationwide, federal governments that are the size of continents. They should all be local governments. There again, I just thought of this. You break down 712 divided by 360, starting at minus 38. When you get to the human temperature, the temperature of the human body, it's actually 69 point something, about 70 degrees, 70 whole degrees. And you take the circumference of the Earth and you divide it down by 360 degrees. What do you get? 69 point something, about 70 miles. So there again, convergence. Anyway, the guilds, see, you break it down, and I just said that because the 70 mile, if you just marked it out on a map, 70 miles plus 70 miles, that's about how big the areas of division should be, each regional city-state. And that's about the extent of how far they should be able to govern. And when you do that, you'll find that the people in those areas will take much better care of their own particular area. Once you have these big, huge federal governments where everybody delegating everything to some other agency somewhere, everything is lost in a shuffle and nothing really gets done, and everything just starts evolving and degenerating and getting worse and worse and worse because of the stagnation in the system itself. When basically, as everybody knows, if you just let people take care of their own shit, everything's fine. So that's what basically everything should be broken back down into smaller areas. Like I say, roughly about 70 miles square, or 1 degree by 1 degree on the surface of the Earth. And so I'm talking about these guilds, and like I said, I haven't really gone into it yet, but I'm trying to break down the order of like society and government, and that goes into what I will eventually get to is how things should be governed, how things should be run, and that kind of a thing. Then there's Timaean chronology, that goes back to the calendar, but it's how you measure history, because it's zodiacal ages, not just the months, but just as there are months in the year, there is also the precession of the equinox, which then, like I started off the tape saying, we're going into a new age. We have a change in everything. That's why it's so chaotic right now, because everything is changing, and it's not going to stop changing until it finally settles down with something. But they're trying their hardest to make it evil, to make it negative, to make it the negative aspect, and to suppress all positivity, to suppress all that is good. But anyway, it is changing. But the point is that happens for every changeover between the zodiacal ages of 2160 years. And so, you know, with Timaean chronology, it actually starts over again every age at year one. And so then instead of having like 10,000 BC or, you know, that kind of a thing, there would actually just be, each age would have its own positive number. Instead of negative 2,000, negative 3,000, like in the Julian chronology, it would be, well, actually the Gregorian calendar, counting roughly from the birth of Christ, is somewhat congruent with the age of Pisces. The age of Pisces started about 60 years before, 60 BC. So that would be year one for the age of Pisces. So then if you want the Timaean chronological date, for right now you just add 60 to the current year. You know, so it's actually, the Timaean date would be 2076. But then you go back to the BC, back to the age of Aries, would actually be, you wouldn't count backwards from Christ or backwards from the age of Pisces. You would count forward from the beginning of that age, just like you would with all of them. And then when you get to 2160, after that you would start over with one again. I also have thought to rename the constellations because I don't like the mythological aspect of all of them. Because the mythology of the northern stars is the origin, the basis of all northern religion. And the southern stars in their mythology is where you get the origin of all mythology and religion in the southern hemisphere, although there isn't that much. All the mythologies of the world are in the northern hemisphere. You won't find any great mythologies and religions in the southern hemisphere. Why is that? I can tell you why, but people don't want to hear it. Then I want to write an actual chronology of the planet. I want to write a history of basically all things, if I can at all help it. But that is a long that will take me a long time. Because I want to, there's just certain things I want to do. You have to, well, first you have to make the language. I want to write it as basically a library for this new language, which I then envision to be spreading through all of these new regional provinces or regional powers that develop, that are all, you know, 1 degree apart, 1 degree by 1 degree wide, you know. If I can create the kernel, the basic formula for government, like you base it off, like say the Constitution, you have Locke's Book of Law, you know, you have things like that. You get rid of get rid of Black's Law, and you go back to Locke's Law. You know what I mean? That you break it down to simplicity. That's how it should be, and that's where they made the Constitution from. They didn't use damn Black's Law to make the Constitution. And I believe the Constitution should be the basis for all of these new city-states. Of course, you have all the state constitutions as well. But anyway, the point is, if I can create this culture, create this language, create this basis for basically civilization, and for people to how to make civilizations and keep them running, keep them functioning. But then you take what I'm saying is, what you do is you make something that works in a small area, a local area, and then you copy that design all around, and then it spreads because it works. And like I said before, you have to have religion infused with government, because if you don't, people will not care about the government, and then it just falls into decay that much quicker. But they will apply religion to their lives, but they're not going to apply the affairs of the state to their lives unless they feel that it's a part of their life. and that they're a part of it. It all has to go together. "45 minutes. Yeah, Torrefaction was my original name for the faith. Knowing that not everyone can believe it, not everyone will, you can't expect everyone to understand it. Because God is not actually putting everyone on earth through that process. Only those of us that know that we have undergone a process of change. We see ourselves being awakened over time. And it never stops. It's like we are always continually being awakened to the next level, the next great thing. It's a journey. We never arrive at the destination because we're always traveling forward towards the light. But other people, I mean, they're just not on that wavelength, and they're just, all they will ever think of, all they will ever be able to do is think in terms of flesh and bone and material life. And that's just what they're there to do. That's what they're here for. I'm looking for other things here. I don't know why I'm talking. I'm fucking talking like I'm gonna put this on my other channel. I gotta stop it. In fact, well, I'm not gonna say that. I was afraid that last video wouldn't load up, but it did. And I mean, I was afraid they would mute it. But I guess I slipped through under the radar. Plantagenet Kings, Calendar Wheel, Christian Identity, The Case for Byzantine Priority. That's a good paper. I forget his name though. I forget that guy's name. Maurice Robinson. Yeah, that's a good paper. Byzantine text, that's arguing for all the Bibles that came before the 20th century. All the ones after the 20th century are made from a different Greek text, which is basically a bastardized Greek text. The Mandela people talking about the Mandela effect people, talking about all the changes in the Bible, the Mandela effect changing the Bible. They don't have to use the Mandela effect to change the Bible because they already changed the original source material from which all the Bibles are translated. With the Nestle text, and it comes from the Westcott and Hort text, which is what it's called eclectic. It's an eclectic text where they just splice it together from 1,000 different sources. I'm not even exaggerating. It's actually more than 1,000. It's like 3,000. And they pick which which word they think fits better here and which line is better there. They cut verses out, they add verses in, they make it up as they go, they make it say what they want it to say, and that's why the 20th century Bibles are not as good as the older Bibles, because the older ones come from the Byzantine text, which is what it is. They got it from Constantinople before the Turks took over the city. They actually just got it out in time before the Turks took it over in 1453. If they had taken Constantinople 20 years earlier, we probably wouldn't even have a King James Bible. Or it wouldn't be the same anyway. Well, okay, I guess that's all, I guess that's enough for now. I'll cut it off here.